Fine. Okay, so we were discussing about compression bandages in detail. In the last lecture, we were exclusively discussing on the compression bandages. We have discussed about why it is used and what are the importance of the structure in the compression bandage. That is how the pressure is important and the compression, how it is explained by the Laplace law that we have seen. So, which is very important law. The pressure is equal to tension into N into K divided by circumference into bandage width, which means that pressure is directly proportional to tension and the number of layers of the fabric and inversely proportional to the circumference and the bandage width. So, it means that if the tension and the number of layers are higher, pressure will also be higher. And if the circumference and bandage width are lower, then also the pressure will be higher. But if the circumference and bandage width are higher, the pressure will be lower. So that is the understanding. And we have seen what are the characteristics required for the ideal compression bandage. Then the classifications we have seen. Then what are the orthopedic cushion bandages and multi-layer compression systems, long and short stretch bandages and their limitations. These we have discussed in the last lecture, and the recent developments of the 3D knitted spacer fabrics for the compression bandages also we have seen, and what are its uh, properties, why it is advantageous to use the 3D spacer fabrics, that also we have discussed in the last lecture. So today we'll move on to the next topic, which is the implantable materials. So what are implantable materials? So far we have been discussing only on the non-implantable materials. But now we are going to discuss about the implantable materials. What are they? Implantable means which can be implanted inside the human body. That is for the internal use, it can be used. So the implantable materials, they are used in effecting a repair to the body. For example, for the implantable material is the wound closures, which is the sutures or replacement surgery. For if, for example, if any organ like blood vessel in the artery or vein, it is clogged. In that case, some sort of a grafts are placed inside the blood vessels, which are called the vascular grafts, which are used for the in the blood vessels. And next is the artificial ligaments. You know what is meant by a ligament? Ligament is a connective tissue. It is a tissue which connects bone to bone. Two bones are connected together by a tissue called ligament. But whereas there is another one called a tendon, which we will see later, these artificial ligaments and tendons. Tendon is something, it is similar to the ligament, but the only difference is a ligament will connect bone to bone, but tendon will connect bone to muscle. Okay, we will see those tendons and ligaments in the next lecture. So these are the implantable materials, that is, which can be implanted inside the human body. So for implanting, the main important thing is it should be biocompatible, because you are going to implant it inside the body, so that it should be compatible with the internal organ, whether it is where you are connecting a bone and a muscle by a tissue, which is a textile, when you are using a textile material, the textile material should be compatible with the tissue in the human body. So that is the thing. So here there are 4 key factors which will determine how the body acts to the implant. What are the important factors? The first important factor, that is the most impacted factor, is the porosity. Porosity in the sense, the rate at which the human tissue will grow and encapsulate the implant. For example, if you are using a textile material as an implant, over that implant, over that textile material, the tissue will grow and it will encapsulate, it will just cover the implant. For that reason, the implant which you are using should be porous. If it is not porous, then in that case, what will happen? The tissue growth will not be possible, and also the encapsulation will not be possible. So the important factor, most important factor, is the porosity that determines the rate at which the human tissue will grow and encapsulate the implant. So this is important. And you see, next thing is whatever textile material you are using as a fibers for growing the tissues, that size of the fiber should be small and circular in shape. Small circular fibers are better encapsulated with the tissue than the larger fibers with the irregular cross section. So small fibers are better encapsulated. That is the thing. And the next thing is the toxic substances must not be released by the fiber polymer, and the fiber should be free from surface contaminants such as lubricants and sizing agents. So this is important. There should not be any toxic agents released from the fiber polymer, and fiber should be free from the surface contaminants like lubricants or sizing agents. There should not be any release of these agents. And the properties of the polymer will influence the success of implantation in terms of biodegradability. This is also another important thing. It should be biodegradable. And if you see, for these implants, there are many materials are used, and they are classified actually based on the reactivity. You can use a number of synthetic fibers also, like polyamides, polypropylene, and PTFE, polyester, etc. And if you see, uh, polyamide is one of the most reactive material. Reactive in the sense what? It will lose its overall strength only after 2 years as a result of biodegradation. For degrading inside the human body, if you are using the polyamide as an implant, it will take 2 years to degrade. In the sense, it degrade in the sense it will lose its overall strength and it will biodegrade inside the human body. And this is the most reactive material. Most reactive in the sense it means that it will degrade in a short time, that is around 2 years. But whereas if you see polypropylene and polyester, this will not degrade in 2 years. It may take some more time also to degrade. And PTFE is the least reactive, which means that it will take more time to degrade. It will take a lot of time to degrade. So that is the thing. So we will be discussing about this in the later, about how this biodegradability happens. So in the today's lecture, we will see about the sutures. So you may have already heard about this word, sutures. And these sutures are the implantable materials, and it has been used by the people for a very long time. For example, you see archaeological records show that Egyptians have used linen and animal sinew to close the wounds. The wounds are closed by the textile fibers. That is, linen is used before a long time itself. And also even animal sinews were used. That is, the animal tissues were used as a suture. And if you see, these sutures are the most frequently used biomaterial for wound closure and tissue approximation. And they are used to close the cuts if there is any cut in the human body. By, for example, if any injury happens, or if any surgery is done by cutting a particular part of a skin, so those are closed with the help of the sutures. So they are used in the skin, internal issues, organs, and also blood vessels. If you see, there are desirable properties for a suture material which a suture should possess. What are they? it should be good knottable and secured. It means that it should the knot strength should be higher. When you just to make a knot, that knotability should be good and it should be secured. That knot should not be easily removed when you make a knot. So that is important. Next is it should be inert. It should not be reactive. It should be inert. Next is that important thing, which is the tensile strength. It should have the adequate tensile strength, and it should have a good strength retention in the body environment. Inside the body environment, it should have a good strength. It should have a good healing characteristic, and the fibers which you are using must be compatible with the surrounding body tissues, and also it should process predictable degradation. There should be some prediction. If you are using a particular textile material, say a particular fiber, at what time duration it will degrade, that understanding should be there. So these are the desirable properties that is expected from the suture material. But the thing is, important thing to know is this point: there is no one universal suture material that satisfies all the requirements. Okay, all the requirements satisfying is not easy. It will be difficult. So there is no one universal suture material, but a number of natural and synthetic fibers satisfy the above requirements to varying degrees. The degrees will vary. Some fibers may have a good knottability and it may not be inert. Some fibers may have the inadequate tensile strength, but it may have the good healing characteristics. Like that, there may be, to the varying degrees, these sutures, whether it is a natural or a synthetic fibers, it will satisfy the requirements. And the next thing is the classification of sutures. So how to classify these sutures? Sutures are classified based on whether you can classify based on their whether it is a monofilament or a multifilament. You can classify them based on the based on whether it is a mono or a multi number of filaments. You can classify them, or else how you can classify them is whether it is a biodegradable suture or a non-biodegradable suture. So you know very well what is a biodegradable suture. It means that it is mainly used for the internal wound closures, and non-biodegradable sutures are used to close the exposed wounds and are removed when the wound is sufficiently healed. That is, outside the skin, you can use the non-biodegradable suture, and once the wound is healed, you can remove them. But biodegradable sutures are preferably used inside the human body. That is, as a implantable material, like inside the human body, whether it can used for stitching the blood vessels or internal organs, like that you can use. So if you see this about the suture, how it is manufactured, like a normal synthetic fibers, how you manufacture, like whether you are using a melt spinning or a wet spinning, depending upon the nature of the polymer, you can do any one of the spinning and produce the fiber. And once you produce the fiber, you know what are the next steps, like drawing, heat setting, these things you do. So similarly for suture, it is also a stitching thread basically. So the main thing is the suture needs some good properties expected. What is that? That is the tenacity, straight pull strength, and not pull strength. These are the important properties that are expected from the suture. For this, what you do, once you manufacture the fiber or the filaments, you stretch the filaments from -50 to 0 degrees centigrade for 30 seconds to 4 hours, so that you can you stretch them and then you set them, so that what will happen, it will be heat set to create a surgical suture to get the dimensional stability. And if you see the conventional yarn twisting process, for a yarn twisting process, which is used in the conventional yarn, they can be replaced by a simple entangle method. You can simply, if you want to produce a multi-filaments which contains many filaments in a particular group, you can use a simple entangle method where you can use a process called the fluid jet process, where that will intermingle all the filaments together so that a multi-filament suture can be made. This is how you do the manufacturing. Just I am explaining it in a very brief manner, because the manufacturing is learning in detail is not the main thing in this. So you just learn this in the basic level. So the main thing is, for monofilaments you have to do the stitching and then heat setting, and for multifilaments what you do is you do the entangle method, where the filaments are intermingled to create a multifilament structure by using the fluid jet process. And if you see, there are other important properties and features that contribute the function of different sutures, like filament structure. What is the structure of the filaments, whether it is a monofilament or a multifilament, and what is the size of the filament, what is the size of the suture. There are different sizes that are available in the suture materials. And degradation property, how it will degrade, how much time it will take to degrade, whether it is a bioabsorbable suture or a non-bioabsorbable. And next is the tensile strength, very important thing which we are going to see now. And surface texture, what is the surface texture of the suture, whether it is the texture is smooth for handle purpose, whether it can easily penetrate inside the tissues, whether it has a good lubrication to penetrate inside the tissues. Next is the stiffness, whether the stiffness is there. And the next is whether it is a flexible type of a material or not. So these properties also are important in the suture, so that it will provide the good function. And most important property among all these things is the tensile strength. What is the requirement of a tensile strength in the suture material? So if you see, the ability of a suture to resist the tissues, whether during any kind of a stress or a repair capability, that time this tensile property is important. So this corresponds to the size, what type of a size you are using, suture size you are using, and the tensile property of the suture material. So the tensile strength should balance the tensile strength of the tissue. Very important thing. The suture material, whatever tensile strength it has, that should match with the tensile strength of the tissue, because you are going to use it in the tissues. So the tissue tensile strength and the suture tensile strength should be matchable, so that you will get the better healing process. And the thing is, tensile strength of the material, suture material, will vary with the size. And text is the quantity of weight in kg that is needed to sever the suture material. Sever means cut. How much weight is required to cut the suture material? So that determines the tensile strength. And last important point is, the tensile strength of the suture material also depends upon the number of filaments, whether it is a monofilament or a multifilament. Okay, so if you see about the suture material, they also have a classification. What are their classification? So if you see this table, the table, I am not sure whether it is very clearly visible to you, because it has been copied from a research review paper, but I will try to explain.
Visible, sir.
Huh?
Visible.
Visible. Okay. Fine. Good. So if you see, these are the surgical sutures in which it is classified into different categories. The main category is two things which you need to understand is, you can classify them based on the number of filaments, and then next, whether you can classify them based on whether it is absorbable or non-absorbable. And otherwise, how you can classify them is, you can classify them whether it is based on a natural source or a synthetic source. So three ways you can classify. And main way is the number of filaments and the whether it is a absorbable or a non-absorbable. So these are the two important things, and this is the subclassification, whether it is a natural or synthetic. If you see the surgical sutures, if you classify them based on the number of filaments, you can classify them as a monofilament or a multifilament or braid or pseudo monofilament. This monofilament is further classified into whether it is an absorbable suture or a non-absorbable suture. And if you see, this absorbable suture is further classified into two categories, which is the natural and synthetic. Natural, if you see, which are the natural absorbable sutures, there are many examples are there. The one which is given is surgical gut, plain and chromic. This is a surgical gut, means it is a cat gut, which you have seen, we have discussed before 2-3 lectures back. Cat gut fibers, that is a natural absorbable fiber. Next is the collagen, that also we have discussed as a fiber. We have learned about what is a collagen. And next is the synthetic absorbable suture, which is, there are many examples are there which we are going to see. Polydioxanone, which is abbreviated as PDS2, which is a trademark of this fiber, which is a polydioxanone, which is a thermoplastic type of a fiber. Next is the polyglyconate, which is sold under the market name called Maxon. Next is the polyglycaprone 25, which is marketed under the name called Monocryl. Next is the polyglycolic acid, which is marketed under the name called Dexon. Okay, these are all the absorbable fiber. See, one thing you need to understand is, if absorbable fiber means it is not necessary that it should be natural fiber. It can be a synthetic also, because synthetic fibers are also absorbable in the human body. Only thing is that the time that taken to absorb may be different. Okay, it will be different. So that is the thing. So if you see this monofilaments, under the monofilament category, there are non-absorbable fibers which are used in the as a suture material, which are synthetic non-absorbable. What are the materials? Polyamide, which is called ethylene, it is a trade name. Polypropylene, which is sold under the name called Prolene, and polybutyl ester, which is sold under the name called Novafil. And the next is the polyester and the stainless steel. These are all the monofilaments, but these are non-absorbable. It will not be absorbed by the tissues. Okay, so that is the thing. And if you see the multifilaments, which are otherwise called the braided type of sutures, these also have classification. These are classified on the basis of absorbable or non-absorbable. If you see in the multifilaments, under the absorbable categories, there are synthetics which are available, which is called the polyglycolic acid, Dexon. Okay, similar to the one which you are seeing here. Here you can see the same Dexon, polyglycolic acid, Dexon. And the next is the polyglactin 910. This is another synthetic type of a multifilament thread, which is sold under the name called Vicryl. Okay, so if you see, these are all the synthetics, but it is absorbable inside the human body. Next is the non-absorbable suture, which is also classified on two different ways. One is the natural type of a suture, and another is the synthetic type of a suture. Natural type of a suture, if you see, they are classified as there are different categories of natural are silk, linen, and cotton. It would be surprising to you, it is natural, but it is non-absorbable. Okay, so what does it mean? It will take more time to degrade. Synthetic, if you see, they are classified into three different categories, which is polyester, polyamide, and stainless steel, which you have already seen here in the monofilaments. Okay, so these are the different classification of surgical suture threads based on their manufacturing process, whether it is a monofilament, multifilament, or pseudo monofilament. So we are going to see all the monofilament, multifilament, and pseudo monofilament in a very brief manner. So monofilament suture is smooth. It has a smooth surface. It can be made from the synthetic material by the polymer extrusion method, like a melt spinning. The important property here, we are not learning about how it is manufactured, what type of spinning system is used. That we are not going to discuss. We are mainly discussing about the suture point of view, what and its important property. So if you see, the important property of the monofilament is minimal tissue reaction. It is an advantage. Okay, so the tissue reaction should be minimum. It should not react with the tissue. So it should have a minimum reaction. That is an advantage. And so it has a smooth surface. So it will not create any kind of adverse tissue reaction. And another thing is, these monofilaments does not allow any bacteria to survive as compared to the multifilament suture. So because of a smooth surface, since it is a monofilament, it do not allow to survive any bacteria on the sutures when compared with the multifilament sutures. And also it is easy to make or place a knot in the depth of the body. If you want to make any kind of a knot or anything, it's not, if you want to make a knot and secure the knot, it is easy to make a knot. So this is how it looks like. This is a nylon monofilament, just for your understanding, just a single type of a filament is shown. See, but there are some drawbacks also associated with this monofilaments. What are the drawbacks? The knots, no, it is easy to put the knot by using the monofilament. But the problem is the knot security will be less and it is less flexible. Okay, the knot security is less, low knot security, and it is less flexible. And there are a number of fibers used as a monofilament, which we have just seen, like polyester, polyamide, polypropylene, polydioxanone. These are the used as a monofilament sutures. And if you see, there are some properties of these fibers. For example, if you see polyester, it has a high knot pull and tensile strength, but flexibility is less and the low degradation. It will take more time to degradation. And the next is the polypropylene. Polypropylene has an excellent tissue drag and stability. That is, when you are using the suture in the tissues, it has a good drag, so that is an advantage, and it is highly stable. But this also will take more time to degrade because it is a highly synthetic type of a inert material. And polydioxanone, we are going to see this fiber in the next lecture. We will be discussing. We will see what are its sutures, but I'm just explaining it to you briefly. This is another type of a thermoplastic polymer, polydioxanone, and polyglycolic acid is another type of thermoplastics, which is derived from the glycolic acid. These also are used as a sutures. But the advantage in this is, if you use polydioxanone and polyglycolic acid, polycarbonate copolymers, these are dissolved gradually in the body by means of a hydrolytic process. That is, in reaction with the water, it will actually degrade. So that is the property of this polydioxanone and polyglycolic acid, polycarbonate copolymers. Next is the multifilament sutures. What are the multifilament sutures? In which these number of filaments can be twisted by using, which we have just seen. You can just intermingle them by using a fluid jet process. You can then form a braided structure. You can take some 8 to 16 monofilament ions and then you can make a braided structure out of it. And this surface, if you observe, the surface of the braided structure, it is as a rough surface. It is not like the monofilament, which has a smooth surface. This braided structures have sutures have a rough surface. So that is the reason why a lubrication is essential in the surface. So that what will happen, it will create some smoothness over the surface, and because of the smoothness, you will get the it will lower the tissue drag. The tissue drag will be lower, and it will allow the better knottability. The knot, whichever you are putting, it will be easy to put. And if you see the multifilament sutures, it has a higher mechanical properties, that is the tensile strength and other mechanical properties like knot pull strength, these are higher in the multi-filament sutures with the significant flexibility and pliability than the monofilament sutures. So it is flexible and also it is pliable. You can just see the structure of this multi-filament braids. And another thing is it is flexible and easy to handle as compared to the monofilament sutures. There are a number of fibers that can be used as a multi-filament sutures. There are polyesters, polyamides, silk. These can be used as a multi-filament braided suture, which you can see the braided structure here. Okay, so this has many advantages, but there are some disadvantages also because of the rough surface, the drawbacks like which we have seen in the monofilaments, not in the monofilaments. We have seen in the monofilaments, the advantage is it will not allow the bacteria to grow, but whereas in the multifilament, because of the different layers are there, it allows many filaments are there, so the bacterial growth is possible in the multifilaments. Okay, so these are the things, properties of the multifilament sutures. And next is called the pseudo monofilament suture. This is another type of a suture, but it is not used that much. If you see, it has a core of several twisted materials. Okay, this is the core material, this is the sheath material. Okay, this core material contains several twisted materials, which are the filaments. These are coated with an extrusion of the same material as the core. The same material is used, that is why it is called the pseudo, which means false monofilament. It is coated with the extrusion of the same material as the core. So you can see this is how it look like. There is a nylon multifilament with a nylon sheath. Both core and sheath are the same material. Okay, it consists of several twisted materials in the core and coated with the extrusion of the same material as the core. If you see these properties of this pseudo monofilament sutures, these sutures have a low tissue drag. That is an advantage. The tissue drag should be lesser. Otherwise, if the drag is more, then it is not good thing. Good knotability, that is the knot whichever you are putting when you make the suture, when you complete your stitch, that knot strength should is good, and fair flexibility. But the thing is, though it has a good knotability, that knot will not be secured for a long time. As you see in the, when you see the monofilament suture, that has some reasonable security. If you just, what does the security mean? If you put a knot, that knot should not be easily come out. It should not come out. The knot should not easily get removed. Okay, that is called the security. That knot security should be higher actually, but whereas for this pseudo monofilament suture, the knot security is less when compared similar to the monofilament suture. So that is the disadvantage associated with the pseudo monofilament suture, which is similar to the monofilament sutures. Okay, so this is how it is classified based on the number of filaments. And the next way how we can classify them, you can classify them based on the absorbability. That is, you can classify the surgical sutures as whether it is an absorbable suture or a non-absorbable suture. Absorbable means what? They undergo degradation and loss of tensile strength within 60 days. Within 2 months time, it can degrade because of the presence of enzymes that are in the human body, or with the help of a water, which is the hydrolytic alone. So these are the examples, like polyglycolic acid. This is a type of absorbable suture. There are many sutures here, only one example is written, but there are other many absorbable sutures are there. And these absorbable sutures also are classified into 2 groups, which are called natural and synthetic, which we have already seen in the table, the flow chart. So if you see in the absorbable sutures, there are plenty of sutures that are absorbable, which are natural in nature, and we are mainly discussing about some specific type of fibers which are absorbable in the 60 days. They are called catgut is one of the suture, which we have already discussed how it is manufactured and what are its drawbacks. We are just seeing them in the suture point of view now, rather than the fiber point of view. The next is the collagen. So catgut, you know very well how it is derived. It is derived from the gut, that is the lower intestine of the cattle or sheep. It is derived, and it is a monofilament suture, and it is absorbed by the process of enzymatic digestion. And absorption rate, it depends upon the size, and also whether the gut is plain or chromicized. That is whether you have treated the gut with the chrome salt solution. Okay, so there, depending upon that, the absorption rate is decided. Okay, and another advantage is that it can be used even in the presence of infection. So that is advantage. And the thing is, the tensile strength loss is faster than the absorption. So this is a disadvantage, because since it is a absorbable suture, it will absorb within the human body very fast. So before it is absorbed, the strength of the suture gets reduced. So that is the disadvantage. This is catgut is one of the popular suture, uh, but it is also banned in certain countries because of certain problems associated with which we have discussed earlier. You can see if you recall our discussion on the catgut, this is the slide which we have seen. These are this is how it is processed. That is the from the sheep or cattle intestine. You take the intestines and then cut them into ribbons, wash them, bleach them, and do the chroming process, that is washing, bleaching, and dyeing. And whatever ribbons you get, you spin the ribbons together, then do the drying, polishing, twisting. This is how these fibers are made. And the thing is, this suture has certain problems. That is, in Europe and Japan, these are banned because it has certain problems like bovine spongiform encephalopathy. It is called a mad cow disease because it is derived from the stomach of the cow and the sheep. So that is why whenever these fibers, the sutures which they are manufactured, they are certified as BSE free. That is bovine spongiform encephalopathy. It is a disease. So that is one of the drawback, but it has other great disadvantage like high knot pull tensile strength, good knot security due to the excellent handle procedures. Okay, and the another problem is it is not used at all for human surgery in some countries, which we have already seen. That is because it is a gut suture which is derived from the stomach of the cow and sheep. Okay, but otherwise it is used in the different surgeries for the different problems which we have already discussed, for the general wound closure, ophthalmic, orthopedic, bone, for gynecology, obstetrics, gastrointestinal. And the thing is, it will absorb very fast in the body. Okay, and it can be used in the place where the infection is already there. So that is also advantage. So those things we have already discussed. Okay, so this is about the catgut type of fiber. Next is the collagen. Collagen, you know very well. Just we will recall our discussion on the about the collagen. Just I will move the slides to our previous discussion on the collagen type of collagen. You know very well, it is abundant protein in the human body. That is the 1/3 of the human body contains protein that contains collagen. Okay, they are made up of the proteins called the collagen. It is present in many connective tissues like tendons, ligaments, skin, and muscles. And this collagen fiber, how it is obtained? This fiber, if you see, it is obtained from the bovine skin, which is the cow skin. And it is a protein available either in the form of a fiber or in the form of a gel, that is a hydrogel, gelatin form. And this collagen, if you see, they have good properties. Like it has a higher bulk density from 0.01 to zero point 0.3 grams per meter cube, and they have a size 30 to 250 micron diameter, large pore size, so that what will happen, because of the higher porosity, tissue growth can take place. Okay, whenever it is used as an implant in suture, as a suture if you are using, or as say for tissue, for making the tissues grow, for some other application you are using as an implant, whether as a vascular graft or as a ligament, in ligaments you are using, this collagen is very much advantageous because of the higher porosity and the bulk density. This is advantageous. And if you see, this collagen, though it is has many advantages, its mechanical properties are less when it is used alone, because it is like a matrix material. If you recall our discussion on fibers for composites, we take a matrix and a reinforcement to make a composite material. So collagen, if it is used alone, it will not have a higher strength. Okay, because it is a like a matrix material, so it is actually mixed with a reinforcement. It has to be reinforced, so that it will by using some sort of a reinforcement agent, it is cross linked, so that it will get you can get a higher strength out of it. Okay, so if you see the materials like hydrogel, where hydrogel is something where which retains more amount of water. It is a 3D cross-linked structure type of a material, hydrogel, which can retain more amount of water that can be it can be converted by suitable cross-linking, so that it can be used for other applications like contact lens uh, and other applications. These things we have seen. And if you see in the suture point of view, since I have told you it is derived from this suture is particularly derived from the cow skin, this has certain advantages that is there with the catgut. In catgut, what disadvantage we have seen? It is has low tensile strength. The tensile, not low tensile strength, tensile strength of the catgut reduces before the fiber gets absorbed in the human body. But whereas this collagen is not like that, those disadvantages are overcome by this. Here, if you see the tendons of beef, that is the tissues, the connective tissues which are present in the beef, that is the cattle, they are converted into dispersed fibrils. These are extruded and reconstituted to form the collagen suture. So these have a higher strength, and also the problems associated with the catgut is overcome using this collagen. It is one of the popular type of a absorbable suture. It will be absorbable within 60 days, that is 2 months in the human body. So this is the property of a collagen type of a suture. And next is the synthetic suture. And this synthetic suture, if you see, this is a absorbable. Okay, this is a absorbable suture. If you just recall the flow chart which I have shown you, you can just see here. This is the absorbable type of a suture. Now we have seen the natural. Now we are going to see the synthetics. Just I will just tell the names. In the next lecture, we will see the detail. What are the synthetic sutures which are absorbable in nature? They are polydioxanone, polyglyconate, polyglycarbone, polyglycolic acid, polyglactin 910. These are all the synthetic sutures, but they are absorbed in the human body in a very less time. Okay, so these are the synthetic sutures. About the synthetic sutures, we will learn what are the individually. We will see what are the about the what is polydioxanone, what is polyglyconate, about the suture property. We will learn in the next lecture. Okay. So I am stopping here for today. Do you have any doubts?